Hello and welcome back to the HH Gaming podcast brought to you by Hellhades.com. Once again, I am joined by Safira, co-host of the show, and today we have a special guest, Faithy, who is a raider in Method. For those of you who don't know, Method are a World of Warcraft guild that compete each tier for the Race to World First, and they've just come out of a 21-day progress streak. Which is pretty insane, I guess, even for competing in the Race to World First. Faithy, for the guys who don't necessarily know much about World of Warcraft and things like that, do you want to explain maybe what the Race to World First is and what it is that you guys have been doing?
So the competitive scene of WoW has two scenes, one being player versus player, and the other one being PvE, which is against an enemy, which is an MMO, right? And in WoW, which is the Race to World First, is basically competition as to who can finish the new raid the fastest, who can kill the last boss on the hardest difficulty the fastest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the race. That is the race.
And sounds so simple, yet so long.
It sounds so simple. Yeah.
So it was 11 bosses, if I'm right.
Yes.
And to be able to be the top guild in the world, I guess, is like the ultimate goal of being the first person to beat it. But this race was a little bit different to usual because, I mean, I think in my history of World of Warcraft, the longest race that I've probably seen is maybe 2 to 3 weeks. But this one, within the first day or so, we knew that it was going to be an extremely long race because people just weren't making any progress on the first day, and it just seemed nuts. Like, did you guys know that it was going to be as difficult as it was, or?
Not in the start. The first few days, we didn't even step into the hardest difficulty because we wanted to gather gear going in there more powerful. So it was little bit of a gray area. No one really went into the raid the first day, which was a bit odd. That hasn't happened ever. Like, that's the first time that's ever happened in WoW history. So it took like 2 days, and the first few bosses were relatively easy. They always are. And at one point we got to the 7th boss, and that's where it started. The 7th boss was crazy.
Was that the crab?
That was the crab. Yeah, that was the crab.
It was and I mean that people were saying that just wasn't going to die. And who was the first? Was it Limit that took it down first? Or?
Yeah, it was Liquid that took it down first. Yeah.
And do you know how long it took them, or in terms of days of progress? Or
I think it was like 2-3 days of progress on that boss. It was roughly 500 attempts on that boss.
Oh, that's wow. I mean, for the average player, they're thinking 500 attempts. I mean, you got to understand like the mental fortitude to just wipe, go, and just keep at it. It's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, how do you guys go about preparing? Because I think that's one thing. It's the process of actually being inside one of these raids and doing it. But before you even get to that stage where you can go into the raid, I know full well, like I've seen the amount of effort that you guys have to put in behind the scenes to actually even get your characters ready that early on. I mean, do you want to maybe talk about things like split runs? And I'm sure you're well familiar with them. And just to explain to listeners, to give a bit of background before we sort of deep dive into some of the other topics.
Yeah, so obviously in WoW you have 4 difficulties. One of them pretty much being ignored for the highest raiders, which is looking for raid. So you have normal, heroic, and mythic. In the first week of the race, you only have normal and heroic available. And obviously you want to gather as much power on your characters as possible. And the main way of doing this is through something called splits, which is basically repeating the raid over and over and over again on different characters to specifically try to obtain one piece to trade to one character. Because you can only kill a boss once and it will reward you the loot. If you kill it again on heroic or normal, it won't drop anything, but you can still be there and kill it. So we would bring, let's say, 20 of our own people that couldn't loot anything from the boss. We'd kill the boss with one person who was available, and we'd have roughly 9 people in who would be able to trade that one specific piece to that one person. So that was a lot of work.
Yeah,
when you had to
that's
do that
insane.
for 20 people.
How many runs do you think that is in total?
Roughly per boss, about like 50 or 60. I think it was up about like it was
Wow.
some crazy numbers
Per boss. So we can
to get specific pieces.
So you didn't do splits on the last boss, I don't think, in the first week, did you?
No, the last boss was really hard.
Yeah. So
you had to ignored.
You had to kill bosses in that dungeon 500 times, effectively.
It was only some of them, right?
Yeah.
There's a certain set bonus in WoW that's called tier sets, which after you gathered 4 pieces or 2 pieces, it will give you like a massive boost to your character, like improving spell abilities or changing how you play your character. And these tier pieces are the fundamental of WoW rating. And those are the pieces that was most important. And those were the bosses that we killed. So that was 5 bosses that we killed, those roughly like 50 times.
Wow. That's that's insane. So
you're doing all this before you like prep for the actual kind of push to world first.
This is the week before we go into Mythic, yes. And even in the Mythic week, because it was like, okay, this guy was unlucky. He didn't actually get it, even though he had all of these people there. So go in again and try again.
Yeah. Get him his set bonus or re-gear his hunter.
yeah, that.
Because I mean, that's the other thing. Is like you guys put all this effort into kind of get your characters ready, but that's focusing on one character. But then you'll stumble across a boss which suddenly you need. Sorry, dropping stuff. You need to start stacking a particular class or something like that, and suddenly you have to go back into these splits to gear up new characters. I mean, how in terms of preparation, how many characters do you personally gear ready for these races to take place?
It depends a lot about like who you are and what you are capable of doing in terms of your personal preference or what you're better at playing. I'm the kind of person who can play pretty much anything. Just give me a little bit of time and I'll pull it off somehow. But we have roughly like 5-6 characters each that needs to be up to date before the raid comes out. And then you have, let's say, I primarily play a class called Warrior, which is a warrior.
Spin to win.
Yeah, exactly. I have, for example, 3 warriors, and I'll bring them in as the mindset of being, these will most likely be the character that I'll play for the hardest difficulty. So I'll have these 3, and whatever character loots the best items after the first week will be decided, okay, this is my best kid character. This is the one I focus on now.
That's insane.
However, as you said, Dan, you come out for cases where it's like, oh, okay, this boss needs this class specifically for this job, or multiple of this class for this job. And that's where, for example, I had to suddenly get ready on a hunter in half a day. I had to learn a completely new class. It's like, we need a hunter.
Favor, you can do it.
Play. Yeah.
You said you can do anything. What? Just learn, right?
Yeah,
okay. Give me a bit.
So I mean, in terms of like your schedule during these events and things like that, how does that look? Like,
as it goes further, and usually we get like an hour more, but it's usually a case of we sit from 8-9 in the morning till midnight. That is our schedule for,
and that's 7 days a week.
That is 7 days a week, yes. With
have like people feeding you. It's like you know.
No, we don't.
Is there anyone around actually like, hey guys, I've cooked your food. You know, keep going. You can do this.
It depends. On the 3 people.
Is it true that I heard that SCO was sending people meal plans and stuff as to what they should be eating?
That happened last year. Yeah, that was actually a thing. that was pretty cool. Yeah, we had some fitness company kind of like who was there and like talking about, okay, good mental fatigue, like how do you deal with certain scenarios and what's good to eat during these long times, and go for a walk, whatever. Like
I mean, it's crazy though, because you know the mental strain that must have on you for 21 days of sitting from 8-9 in the morning until midnight is just, I mean, it was proved, I guess, with the fact that Limit or Liquid, who previously have been a world first guild, they actually had to almost pull out of the race at the end and send people home because they'd all been at an event and things like that. And the tier just went on for so long, to the point where it was having an effect on people's mental health. You know, they'd had hotel rooms, which I know they had to swap hotel midway through the race. And people have real life commitments, because I understand that a lot of you guys are able to do this as a full-time thing, but for a large majority of World First Raiders, this isn't your full-time job. You know, you don't make enough money to do this as a full-time thing. So you know, you need to take time off work and stuff. And I guess if it runs into 3 weeks, suddenly, you know, you have to go back to work and things like that.
Yeah, it was weird this year because it was so long. No one had envisioned it. Like, there hasn't been a race this long since it became a public event. It's a completely new beast to work with. It was crazy. Also, like the 20 days that we had, the 21 days, there was also the week before, so it's actually 28
oh
days.
yeah, true. So
Yeah,
it was
so
basically a month.
It was
like
basically a
time
month.
and everything else on top.
Yeah, and
Wow.
obviously, like as you said, like people have jobs. It's not that many people who can actually live off of World First racing, because WoW esport isn't really like the biggest scene, sadly.
No.
But yeah,
It
there
only
was a lot of
happens,
people.
you know, what, once every 6 months is there a new raid like in this scenario? So it's not like you can run this sort of like, oh yeah, every couple of months we do it. It's quite a big gap between the raids when they get released.
Yeah, it's every, yeah, as you say, it could take like half a year or even over a year. Like, for example, now we'll probably have an entire year with no raid, where we'll just be waiting for the next one.
So is that the plan now? I mean, effectively, we know that, or we've been told that that was the last tier of this expansion. What does the future look like for you guys? Like, what's the next steps? How do you prep for a new expansion to come out? Because it's not like other raid tiers where you have to keep gearing up and things like that, because when a new expansion comes out, there's going to be effectively a gear reset. Like what's the plan for World First guilds now?
Yeah, you could probably ask any Race the World First raider and they'll say that the last year is always the best.
Yeah.
Because it's way more relaxed. Because you don't have to strengthen your character to the utmost, like all of your characters, for the next raid that's coming in said expansion. When WoW releases a new expansion, they completely gear resets you. In case of the new gear that you'll get through leveling up will just simply be better. So all that gear you'd normally have grinded up for the next raid, which would have been going into the raid the most powerful as possible, won't really be a thing when a new expansion comes out. So you just relax. Most of the time just goes into, okay, we do a few clears, we gather some materials and gold for the next expansion, which is a huge thing about the Race to World First. And that's primarily it. The last year is very relaxing.
I mean, that's something that I kind of wanted to bring up, actually, because so just to put it into perspective, I mean, and it's nowhere near at the level of what you guys have had to do, but it is kind of similar in terms of our audience, that there's tournaments and things like that in Raid Shadow Legends, and we've just come off the back of one where Hellhades had to compete effectively for, you know, near enough a week straight, playing 24 hours a day on his account to be able to win this character. Now, to be able to keep up with the resources that he needed, obviously, you kind of forced into that position where you almost have to spend money unless you've, you know, stockpiled a shitload of resources. And
a lot, yeah, which,
and
even then, it's still not enough, to be honest.
Yeah, even then, it probably still wouldn't have been enough to compete at that level. But in terms of you guys, because obviously you're having to have people come in and help you. You're having to effectively buy gear off the auction house and things like that to min-max your characters. How much is it actually costing you per tier to be able to compete at this level?
This tier was very expensive. It's probably one of the, it is the most expensive tier you've ever seen. I think it's hard to say. I'll try to explain it a bit later. But we were what would be around 600-700 million gold in debt for this race, and we had roughly 200-300 mil going into it. So that one, what that means in real money is that we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. Like, it is a lot of money if you take the WoW currency currency into real money.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy expensive.
So how do you work off that debt, so to speak?
Yeah. So now that
is it a real money investment? Do you buy WoW tokens?
No, we don't. That would be way too much.
Yeah.
That would be way too funny. It's easier for us to gather the gold, which we owe people in the game, right? So we work like now, like these days after the race. We had a few days off.
Yep.
Could have used a few more.
Probably much needed.
21 days of grinding, 18 hours a day. It's like no days off for you guys.
Yeah. So we work roughly 6 hours a day at the moment to pay off our debt, which is a case of we take people through this raid and they have a chance of looting gear, and they pay us for doing that, and that's how we earn the money back.
Okay, awesome. And
collector's agency there.
Yeah. Well, but the other thing that has always interested me is because you don't limit it to what server you borrow gold from and buy gold from and things like that. So how does that work? So say if somebody loots a very good piece of gear that you want, you will then buy that on their server and transfer it over to your server? Is that?
Yeah, like some way or form we will get the gold to that person. I think, I'm not too sure, like we have external people actually working with this, basically like accountants who control all this. It's crazy, right? We have like multiple people working on this, and they have like gold on all kinds of servers. WoW is like a massive game with like massive amount of servers, right? So we have gold like everywhere basically, and we try to pay them where they want the money, right? As soon as we can.
That's nuts. And I guess I mean, that is one aspect, though, of being able to compete at the world first. It's not just you 20 people who are actually in the raid. You have a whole team of people doing other jobs outside to support you. Like I know you've usually got people who are building add-ons, and weak auras and things like that, which is effectively a tool which you use inside the raid to help you know what's going on. And people handling your split runs, people handling, as you said, the gold transfer and the transference things. How many people outside of like the 20 people who are in there raiding do you have supporting a team?
There's probably more that I know all of, I'm not gonna lie, because the race as it is now is like it's a big stream thing as well, right?
Yes.
But if we take for the
commentators as well, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. Presenters. With casters and stuff like that. I think we're at least talking over 40 people.
Wow.
Like working on the method channel during the race.
That is awesome, though. It must be so cool to be a part of that, because I know obviously when we used to play WoW together, it was before you joined Method. And you said to me when you were thinking about applying for Method, and you said, you know, I've got this opportunity. I've always wanted to try it. I'm gonna just give it a go and you know have a attempt at competing at the level which I know I can play at, but it's the time investment. And so I mean, how do you guys actually handle the mental strain during the actual progress? Because we got 21 days. We know you're raiding early morning till really when you need to go to sleep.
Basically 18 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
16 hours roughly. Yeah.
How do you deal with it? Like what's the you must have some sort of preparation, because you can't just go in and be like, you know, we're going to blast this 18 hours a day and we're going to stay positive all the time.
You don't really stay positive all the time. It's hard to, right? Like it just comes with like a mental draining like atmosphere for that long, because you're like super competitive. You're fully focused on playing the best that you can, right? There's a big difference between, you know, you can play for like 24 hours, you know, and it's chill, like I'm playing with the mates, but being in like a competitive mindset for that long is very, very draining. We had issues as well midway through. We actually had some major like internal issues with like people getting really down in terms. So we decided we take a break here. We go out and we just talk, and we just sat and talked for like 1.5 hours. And it was just a case of, okay, we need to not do this. Like we need to not be in this negative mood. We need to actually talk nice to each other because people got a bit mad at a certain point, right?
I think there was an incident with Vikland and Kana, I think it was.
There was an incident.
Some yelling.
Yeah.
So we're calling it yelling.
Yeah, it was bad, and we pulled aside and we just talked about it, and people obviously said like sorry for their behavior that had happened there, and it actually got so much better after that. It was actually crazy. Like everyone just listened and they actually took from the conversation. It was really nice.
Well, I've seen comments on Twitter and things like that people actually say that Method above any other guild seem to manage the mental state of their raiders better than anybody. You guys, and I was watching a lot of the race, and it genuine. I know there was obviously that like spat in one of the fights where
it's natural, right? Isn't it? You're gonna get it after that. There's commitment. You got all these guys chucked in a room together. Someone makes one mistake. It's hard sometimes not to have that knee-jerk reaction to go off.
It's almost bound to happen. Yeah, it is. But you need to be able to get out of that mindset, and that was something we did really well. Like we just talked about it and figured it out, and everyone was good again. So
and do you feel like once tensions probably higher when you're trying to kill a boss which other people have already killed, and you're already on that back foot, and people are starting to progress on the later bosses? Do you feel like when you kind of break that barrier and finally get a boss down, that it kind of eases the pressure and almost resets you ready to go for the next one?
100%. We had our biggest like mental boost on the second week of Reset. While Reset is basically every Wednesday or Tuesday, depending on if you are from European servers or American servers, the raid will reset and you can re-enter and kill the same bosses again, gather gear, and you basically become more powerful. And on the second reset, we just powered through the entire raid, killed all the bosses we'd already killed, and we did really, really well. And that put us in a momentum where we were just like, okay, we're actually doing really well now. And we kept going on that momentum until we actually took second place.
Yeah.
That same week.
Because I can remember listening to some of the commentators and saying where other guilds looked like they were slowing down, Method almost found their pacing towards the last two bosses, and especially into the final boss, which you guys were on it for days, but it was a roadblock effectively for so many other guilds. Obviously, Echo got there first and got the kill, and they did incredibly well. And then you guys sort of slipped in there out of nowhere, overtook all the other guys who were on that boss before you, and take second place. I know there was some controversy around the way that the boss died. Can you maybe explain like that to anyone listening, just so that we can?
Yeah. So how bosses work in World of Warcraft is there's different phases of a boss. Phase 1 could be, okay, the boss have these and these mechanic, and phase 2, he will maybe have some of the same mechanics, but he'll add it onto them, or they change how they work depending on the environment of the fight. And the last boss, Jailer, had 4 phases. And the first 3 phases, obviously, they're always the same. They all are for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And the last phase, which was called a secret phase, which is basically a mythic only thing, mythic being the hardest difficulty in WoW. And no one knew about this phase. It was secret, as said. So no one knew this existed before the last guild got there. And how this worked was when you got the boss to 10%, instead of killing off the boss, he would heal up. He would heal 10% of his health back, and he would gain a shield that would be equivalent to 5% more. So like he would heal up to 25% HP. When we got there and we were pushing phase 3 and the boss was about to hit 10%, a bug happened and the boss didn't heal himself. And his shield didn't happen. So we were just sitting there with the boss who had 10% instead of 25%. And this might sound weird because they'll be like, okay, this is weird, right? And it was a massive bug. But the last phase, if you ask anyone, was actually the easiest phase.
Yeah.
But we got there the first time and we didn't kill the boss because it was the first time we saw this phase. So even though it was the easiest phase, we still died because we didn't. Okay, we did something wrong, right? Yeah, we weren't expecting it, and that's fair. That happens. That's meant to happen, basically, right? So you look at it. Okay, this happened. This is how we progress next time we get there. And we wrote to Blizzard because we have somewhat direct contact with some of them, and we wrote, okay, this happened. This is a bug. What do we do? Because obviously we don't want to get banned for exploiting or doing something we're not allowed to.
Of course.
Because we didn't know what caused this, right? And Blizzard wrote, okay, we'll be looking at it. You guys just keep pulling. And we did. And roughly 45 minutes later, it happened again. And we got in there and we had looked at this phase now, like a lot. It's like, okay, this is what we do. This is how we deal with it. And we got there and the bug happened again. And we killed off the boss and it died.
So have they said whether it was a bug? Because I think the next 2 guilds to kill it had the same bug.
Yeah. So we didn't know. I can say this, and people might be like, they knew, right? But we didn't know what caused this. We had ideas and theories, like, okay, it might be this and this.
Yeah, because you don't see the code, do you? So you guys are just reacting to what you see. Exactly. It's 21 days in, and it's 16 hours deep. The last thing you're going to be doing is going, I wonder if it's this particular way. This is particular. It's like it's bugged. Can we kill it?
As well as that, the other question is, at that point, do you step back and wait till it gets fixed, or do you claim the second place? At the end of the day, you were the only other guild that got that far to even see that phase.
We were significantly ahead of all the other guilds behind us, right?
Yeah.
And we did contact Blizzard, right? Like if they told us to don't pull, we wouldn't have. But they gave us the green light. And I mean, their official Twitter congratulated us as well. Like it was fine. It was deemed as a okay kill. But we found out later that other guild had apparently like analyzed like really well like what we've been doing for this to happen. And it happened that it was an ability that for some reason interrupted the boss. And normally you cannot interrupt the boss. That's not a thing.
Oh.
So
that's good.
that was what happened.
Well,
yeah. And it was not pressing the ability like interrupt itself. It was a certain spell that a mage had that would go through his shield and interrupt him.
Oh,
and it was just part of his damaging rotation. So we had no idea.
Yeah,
was that? Did Blizzard say that was intentional, or was it just an unexpected thing?
That was a bug. They have fixed it now, I'm pretty sure. But another 3 guilds killed it with the same bug because they found out what worked. Later on, yeah.
You guys laid the path.
We did.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, and I think I messaged you at the time saying this because I was listening to the comms and I could hear, like, especially like your raid leaders and things like that. They were saying that, or they were upset because it was almost like you were robbed of a justified kill, because you'd worked so hard for it and you were going to kill that fight that day anyway, even with that phase being, as you said, it's the easiest part of it.
And like Blizzard aren't going to bug fix that in like an hour, are they? They're going to do that in a scheduled patch or something. They're going to get to it.
Well, they probably had to figure out what the problem was. To be honest,
they didn't know what the problem was in the start.
Yeah, often they rely on players. It's like a typical thing in MMOs, really, isn't it? They're looking for someone to actually figure it out for them, rather than very rare that they'll suddenly find the bug themselves. It's normally through player reporting and player identification and different sort of log management that they find the bug. But as you say, like, you're in a race, you can't afford to sort of sit back and go, oh well, Blizzard will fix it, then we can get it just we can do it properly. It's like, well, if they're giving us the green light, I mean, that's the official adjudicator go for it. It's fine, it's legit.
And as you said, I mean, that phase, or the thing that you were able to effectively alleviate was only effectively the final push. Once you get to that stage, it's keep doing what you've already been doing and nuke the boss and hope he dies. And it's as simple as that. And we know from the watching how much damage you guys had in that last phase, that it was going to die. It was as simple as that.
It was
taking longer.
Yeah, we were so far ahead at the boss when we killed it that we would have killed on that attempt anyways, most likely.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a shame that it kind of came out that way. But I think every other guild, like on Twitter and things like that, said at the end of the day, yes, there was an issue with the mechanics in the last part of the boss, but you guys deserved that kill. And that world second title is yours, and you've earned it. And to be honest, after 30 days of raiding, I think nobody can take that away from you. And if anything, you guys were awarded some rest by the devs.
Yeah.
They could probably see the toll that it took on you. So I mean,
how long after the race? Like, obviously, most players like probably listen to this and thinking, "Oh God, if I had to play that game for that long, for that much time, I'd want a break." How long of a break did you actually have from like finishing the race, and then like when was the next time you logged in?
The next morning.
I logged in the next day.
That's a sign of addiction there.
Yeah,
there.
We were celebrating like the guild, obviously, right? We were just like having a good time for like 2 days straight, like just talking and like vibing and being happy and all that, right? But yeah, we had 2 days off, and as I talked about, there's just massive debt, right, that we owe to players, and we don't want to delay it any further because they've helped us that much, right? So we went back in, and now we try to pay off the debt that we have. So we took like 2 days off.
For people who obviously don't realize what you mean by debt, that's obviously when you're doing the race, if you need resources, you've got people who aren't in the race feeding you resources and giving you the stuff to keep you going, so you don't have to go and get it yourself. So that's kind of what you're saying by debt, really, isn't it?
Yeah, never happens. You never have enough gold to actually pay people like instant. So they get like the word of, we will pay you back, right?
Got the little method black book.
yeah, the black book.
Oh, in the corner, Sco's got his little like bookkeeper working overtime.
Yeah. So yeah, they have our word on it, right? So they know they'll get their gold, and that's why we pay like getting it back ASAP to pay them back.
That's awesome. So I mean, what's the plan now? I mean, you've got what, 6-7 months until the next expansion? Do you think maybe longer or
longer? Yeah, I don't think we'll see another expansion before the next year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've basically announced it'll be another season in this expansion with no raid.
No raid.
Which means that season alone will be half a year probably, right? So they'll probably be next year.
Okay. So Method, chill out for stock up that gold for the first tier of the next expansion.
As I said, it's the last tier, right? I think it's going to be very relaxed. People can do a bit what they do. We raid once a week after we paid our debt, maybe 2, just to like, stay together and keep like
I guess that's one of the other hardest things is maintaining that synergy of a team. Because if you effectively all go your own separate ways and then come back in a year's time, you're not going to have that same connection that you need to be able to sort of work as a team in the way that you do when you compete in these sort of events. So you will effectively carry on raiding until whenever the new expansion comes out, I guess.
Yeah. It's basically just like to keep up like friendships and not like get rusty. Just keep on playing, a bit here and there. And people will play the game outside of that because, I mean, we love the game. That's why we play so much.
Yeah, that's why you grind it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's not exactly like League of Legends or something like that, where you've got like a consistent, either a built-in gaming house, or you're playing events every week, every day. You're scrimming, you're training. Like you don't really have that in, I suppose, in sort of a competitive WoW PvE scene. It's more like, okay, you sort of have that warm-up phase into the actual grind, and then it's like that, right, well, now we've got a bit of a gap in time, so it's quite difficult, I suppose, to kind of, reintegrate yourself back in prep for a race. I guess it probably would take time.
Yeah, there's so long breaks, as you say, right? We don't really have like competition outside of the race, right? It's usually just a case of you sit back and relax, but you still want to stay sharp and try to improve as a player because you still can outside, right? So yeah, people keep playing, but it's not really the same environment.
And I guess as well as that, it's kind of evaluating this race to work out what you can do to get the number 1 spot next time. Because I mean, effectively, although obviously Method as a brand has been around for a long time, this is a fairly new raid team. This is the 2nd tier, I think, isn't it? As Method as a third. Okay, third raid tier as Method is now. And for you guys to get 2nd in the world at that point is, I guess it's a testament to one, SCO for rebuilding Method, but also the team that he's got behind him, and you guys for banding together and, you know, going back to that one team, one dream mentality that Methods always had.
Yeah. Like it is a building process, right? Like building a team in WoW takes a long time compared to probably most other games, because you are so many people on a team. It's not like League or Counter-Strike where you're 5-6 people. We're talking 25-30 people that all needs to work together and play well together and like know each other. You know, in Counter-Strike, you could probably take a person and he'd know his teammate. This person will do this because I know him so well. This is what he'll do, right? And we need that with 25 people, and that takes a long time.
And of course, like you're not all the same nationality. English isn't probably your primary language for many of you. It's more either some people probably have very good English, some people might have serviceable, and you obviously got to understand dialects. So you've always got like that communication challenge before you even get started to make sure that, you know, you're all on the same page. You all know what you're saying when you're saying it and communicating. Because I've led some raids in the past, and sometimes if you've got messy communication, it can be horrific in terms of trying to understand what's going on. People panic, they get all stressy, and you need like that good leader, level-headed, to make sure that the right person is saying the right thing at the right time. Otherwise, it falls apart, right? And that takes, as you say, that you can't build that overnight, especially when you've got 20, 25 people all kind of doing it all at the same time. They need to learn when to say stuff and who to respond to.
Because that's always interested me actually now, opposed to when I was playing WoW, is that these top guilds, the raid leader's not actually even in the raid anymore, are they? They're sitting externally watching one of the players and actually raid leading without playing themselves, which is mind-boggling to me. But yeah, it's crazy that they're now able to do that. So do they just look at one person, or do they have multiple views, or?
It depends. I know our raid leader, Biff, he primarily looks at one person, but depending on the fight, he'll swap. But we do something that Echo does as well. I'm not sure how many guilds do this. We have 2 external. We have one who is watching the healers, who obviously has the job of keeping everyone alive, and he's tracking all like defensive usages, raid cooldowns, and all of that, and he'll be calling this throughout the fight. And then we'll have our raid leader who calls mechanics, like what's happening on the boss, right? So we have 2 people actually sitting on the sideline.
So you've actually got 22.
Yeah,
22 people raiding at any given time. That's nuts.
Do you have like communication control in terms of, you know, only they speak, and then at certain times other people will take over and say like, now they need to be a voice in the raid?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, you have, as I said, like the 2 externals, right? They are the people that we need to always listen to, right? Like their word is will, if you'd say, right? You'd always listen to them. Obviously, when we're talking about a boss, everyone chimes in if they have an idea. Okay, how can we deal with this, or is this something that we can do, right? But in a race environment, everyone has to speak. There's no one who, at least in the top end, who can be allowed to never speak, because there'll be a certain mechanic where you'll be like, oh, okay, I'm going to take tremendous amount of damage. I'm going to need help here, or someone needs to help me do this or achieve this. So it's basically a case of you have to be vocal when you need to be vocal, but you don't want to be vocal when you don't need to, because there'll be so much clutter on the voice comms.
Yeah. And you can hear it a lot, like if you've listened to some league teams in terms of when they do like the mic checks and things, like some teams are super calm, very clear, and you think, oh, that's pretty good voice. And the other teams are literally like, kill this, and you're like, how do you even like
it always
focus in that?
It always reminds me of the Onyxia kill where the guy's like, more dots.
Oh yeah, the more dots video. Yeah,
that's so good. That's whenever I think of like angry raid leader, that's what I think of.
It's just when you've like been at it for like hours upon hours, and you get into the end, you know like this is the one, like, and all you can think of is like, just kill it, more damage, more DPS, nuke it, and look. And you can see, I watched a few Asmongold streams, and you can see when he's leading, it's just like, right guys, just nuke it, more damage.
That's Asmongold's answer to everything. It's just like, more damage. We died, we need more damage, take some healers out, add more damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Healers always got a hard time. I feel sorry
Yeah.
for them.
and CC champs. I always used to remember I used to play Lawmaster in Lord of the Rings online, and it was always like it was never the DPS's fault, and they would always be the people to pull the thing, and they just nuke it first. And it's like, guys, you need to let the tank get some aggro here. It's like, oh well, it's not my problem. I do too much damage. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. And then you get the Lawmaster's stun ability had this like really, really like crazy low chance to miss. Like it was almost like 0.1% chance of something, but it could happen. And we had this one Lawmaster, and I kid you not, he had probably the worst RNG apparently, because every time something went wrong, it's like, oh yeah, I got a miss. And it's like,
it's a good cop out. Good cop
like,
out.
I can't really say you're wrong, but at the same time, the frequency in which you've missed this ability, like that seems to me like you just forgot to press the button. And then obviously, you know, anyone who hasn't played an MMO high-end raid will know if you miss one particular ability at the wrong time, like doesn't matter how good your raid is, that's it. You can just wipe if you don't quite stun the right target, or you don't have it under control. The tank loses one person and goes and bonks the healer or something, and then it's just like, right, that's a wipe. Let's go again.
Yeah.
It can be frustrating, but that's the challenge, isn't it? That's the goal. You always like to find that perfect run, the kind of like the drive to be like, okay, we've got it all in line, and then when you get it, that emotion, that feeling is why we get addicted to MMOs, really.
Yeah, it's super rewarding. Like getting that kill, I just feel so good.
Yeah. Awesome. So
do you actually spend any time playing any other games than WoW? Like, have you played Lost Ark? Do you play other MMOs? I know
he plays
Dan
on the US servers.
Dan is a diehard Lost Ark fan, although he hasn't played it in a while. But the amount of hours he pumped in the first week was.
Me and Flunk went hard on that, and we still have been, but it's unfortunately running a business and trying to play games, even though it's a gaming business, it's just like we just don't have time. And I would love to, and I've been trying to get back into WoW, and I would love to get back into a raiding guild, but it's just like. But you play some FPS games and stuff on stream, don't you, Faithy?
I play other games, like whenever I'm not raiding, to not get dried out, to not get tired of the game. I think it's very important for anyone who plays like any game like professionally. Like if you play that game every day, all day, you'll get tired of it. That is bound to happen. And I play a lot of games outside of. At the moment, I play what's it called? Escape from Tarkov. I want to get back into Lost Ark. I played a bit before the race, but it came out just as we started almost.
It did,
so I didn't really have any time. I've played. I don't really play it anymore, but I play a lot of Counter-Strike. So yeah, there's like a lot of games I play whenever. It depends a bit on like the time. What do I want to play? Like what do I want my main game to be, right?
It's always good to have pickup games as well. Like I often play at the end of the night after work in like a game or two of League of Legends, because it's like you can jump in, you can play a quick game. You can like rage at the idiots who fed in mid for like, I don't know, for some reason. Like last night I was like, I'll play a quick game, and then what do you get? You get like a Shaco support and then a Karma Soraka bot lane. You're just like, wow, that's really made me feel so much happy now. But it's always good to play those like quick pickup games, which are completely kind of like, MMOs. We know they are grind fests. Like the whole model is designed for you to play hours upon hours upon hours, and if you want to progress, you need to put the time into it. Sometimes it's nice to just have that kind of quick 30-minute, 40-minute in and out, refresh the brain.
It's really nice having like some of those games, right, where you can just play them to chill. There's no like stress. You just play, have a good time, like 20 minutes in and out, whatever. It's very nice to have those games.
Awesome. Right, well, we will wrap up the podcast there. But for anyone who's interested in checking out Faithy's channel, he streams over on Twitch. So it's twitch.tv/byfaithy.
Yes.
And have you got a schedule now that the race is over, or are you just kind of streaming as and when? Or
right now, no. I'm still like
recovering.
Yeah,
you can see it in his eyes.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Like it takes time. Like it's weird because it was such a long race. It's been over a week now, and I'm still like not like fully recovered.
Well, the thing is, you get to that height, don't you? Right, and then it's you reach the height, and then it's almost like
I remember.
such a long, like you have to almost like reset your brain back into what was your normal routine and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like, oh, I slept for 12 hours, off I go again. It don't work like that. But yeah.
All right. Well, I'll put your link to your Twitch stream in the description, Faithy. Do you do YouTube? I know you have got a YouTube channel.
I don't. Not at the moment, no.
Oh, we want some Faithy guides, and I think you've got warrior guides on the Method website.
I do.
That right?
Yeah. I have a guide on the Method website. Yeah, the warrior
awesome.
guide.
Yeah, I shall put a link to all of the stuff where people can find you. If you do have any questions for Faithy, put them in the comments, and I will certainly relay them to him. But yeah, thank you so much for coming and talking about this arduous journey that you've
historic achievement.
Yeah, just come on, and hopefully next time that we have you on the show, it will be to talk about Method winning the next tier.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But yeah, congratulations on the race, dude, and it was an incredible result. So yeah,
thank you so much.
So yeah, guys, if you do enjoy the content that we put out on the channel, please do like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we will see you in another video very soon.